Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide.
Hi, preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps.
We're here to talk about the overstepping of people with children. We, in the past, have talked about things like when you play with children and you make suggestions, you have to know when to get out of their play. You go over, you participate with them, you may be modeling, you may be asking questions that will build upon their understandings, you may be doing all that. But then you have to know when to get out. Today's topic is a little different. Today's topic is, how do I even know when to get in? When do the children...
When do I do that?
When do I involve myself? When do the children when would they actually benefit from our help and our involvement? And when should we just let them do their best and let them be and let them try? There have been studies, this is what brought this up. Alice and I were reading about this, and there have been studies that have shown that when adults overstep and provide too much or get involved too much with helping, then it actually takes away from children's ability to build resilience, self-regulation.
Independent skills.
Right. Self-regulation, for anybody who's listening and doesn't know what that is, that's the ability to understand how you feel and then make decisions, basically. So those skills, the independent skills, the thinking skills, the cognitive or thinking skills, we're not supporting children building that if we step in too soon or we overstep. So then the question becomes,
maybe step in too often too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
How long do we let the child try to open the lunch container before we step in and say, here, let me help you? How long do we let the child try to solve that puzzle then becomes the question. Because if we step in all the time and go, here, let me help you, I mean, it's the reason they're never learning how to open that container.
It's not, because to me, it's not even learning how to open the container, which is part of it. It's also building the strength in those muscles to do it. Because some of those lunch containers are difficult, right? So, and it takes a certain way to twist things or a certain way to peel things or a certain way to open things. And if they're not doing it, they're not going to build the muscle, but then they're also just not going to know how the puzzle works, like Cindy said, to open it, right? But like, I don't want them sit there for the entire half hour of lunch struggling to get their container open because it's important to eat too, So, but I always tell the kids in my class, like, you need to try it at least once before I'm going to help you. Because some of them will immediately, they won't even try. That was most of my struggle in the beginning of this year. They won't even try. They just assumed I would do it. Like, no, you need to try first. But now that they are trying, it's a matter of like, when do I step in here? Because
But haven't you had children when you say you need to try once? Haven't you had them just give a half-hearted try?
Yes.
And then not, right? Because they know that you're going to end up doing it. So then what is the appropriate amount of time to step in? There are some experts that say you jump in when the children get off task. When now they're not trying to open the container anymore, they've now turned from the container and are doing something else. I remember having children in my class who had basically a smorgasbord. They had multiple containers of different types of food. And if they had trouble, right, if you leave them, they're having trouble opening one and you leave them to that, what they might do is stop trying and turn to something else that they can do easier, like the Ziploc bag or something.
Yes.
So if the child, and for me, that would be getting, and this is just an example, by the way, but for me, that would be kind of getting off task. You were trying to open this container. It had something in it that you wanted. You tried, you gave up, you went to another container.
That for me,
right. That would be a time where I would go and say, let's go back to this container. Let's see why this one is so hard to open.
Yeah.
That's when I would jump in.
Yeah. I think also like sometimes they need it demonstrated, right? Like, so feel like that's where like you might step in the beginning and be like, this is how this opens. Cause some of them, they don't know how it opens. This is how I would open this, and then maybe the next day be like, I showed you yesterday how to open this. Do you remember? And then see if they can do it, because sometimes I really think they don't know how things open, so like you have to like demonstrate it, or they don't know how things work yet. Right. So like you have to like demonstrate it, but then be like, okay, I showed you, now you try it.
I
Right.
think,
So
yeah, but so other experts say before you jump in, give suggestions or ideas. So
yeah,
you can say to the child with the container, if you pull that corner right
the
here,
corner off.
right?
Yeah.
See
Yeah.
where the corner has like a little ledge sticking out. If you
Yeah.
put your hand on it kind of like this and pull, that might open, and let
Yeah.
them do it. So
Yeah.
you're making a suggestion, providing an idea of what to do rather than just saying, here, let me do it.
Yeah.
And I think we have to think about that. Have I provided enough suggestions? Again, for me, another way of knowing that I need to step in is I can see how frustrated the child is getting. I can see that this now is becoming an emotional issue rather than a cognitive issue.
Cognitive
It's not a
issue.
problem-solving
Yes.
issue now. Now it's
Yeah.
an
You're
emotional.
getting frustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I think that there's a time and a place to jump in, but I also think that you don't want to join so quickly, because the more passive the children are in our actions and interactions with them, the fewer skills they build.
Yeah.
We know that, I think, when, I think logically we know that, but we don't always realize, wait, I could have waited a beat and this child might have been able to do this. And it's not just lunch containers. We have to think about things like their social interactions. How long do I let this conversation and negotiation that they're trying to do go on before I jump in? Do we then we observe and just say, okay, everybody's getting too upset now. Now I have to jump in. Do we let it get to that level? Or is there some sort of hint before that of when to involve ourselves?
I agree. I think that we are very quick to jump in when it's social issues, because you're like, I don't know, maybe worried that somebody's going to get hurt or it's going to go too far, there is all of that. So you really do need to assess. You don't want children to be injured. You don't want it to go too far. But at the same time, if we jump in too quickly, they won't know how to solve the problems on their own.
That's right.
With their classmates,
Listen,
so sometimes
we
I
played
kind of
outside,
argue a little bit. Yeah.
We played outside till streetlights came on. There was nobody jumping in to help us negotiate.
Correct. I'm not saying we go back to that, but I think maybe there has to be some sort of happy medium of like, now I feel like people are jumping in too quickly. Back when we were growing up, nobody jumped in at all because there was nobody there. Okay. And I think
it went from one end to the other of the pendulum.
Yes. And I think like we need to somehow get it balanced where, yes, the adults are there and their supervision. However, we need to let them solve the problems on their own a little bit, or they'll never know how to negotiate with their classmates or win an argument gracefully, even, or lose an argument gracefully. They won't know, or how to compromise so that everybody kind of is happy. They won't know, because they'll just be like, an adult will come in and just fix this for me. And we're not always going to be there to fix it for them.
I think it's important to keep in mind, there was an article from, I believe it was Stanford University, and it said too much direct engagement comes at a cost to children's abilities.
Yes. Yeah.
And it may be individual based on the child, how you define too much direct engagement. Yeah. Some children will become highly emotional very quickly, and we have to sort of wean them off that direct engagement. If they are used to people doing all this, which, by the way, that's a very culturally based thing. If families are going to do for them, that's fine. Please don't criticize that. That's their family's priorities and values. We just have to know what they're used to so that we can make adjustments in this group setting and teach them, when we're all together in here, there are a lot of children who need my attention. Right. Many children need me. So we have to wait, or you keep trying, right? Keep trying. Those are the children who I see kind of giving less effort that I will go over to other children first and I'll look at them and say, keep trying, I'll get there. We have a lot of people and right. And see if they will give it some more effort. If I acknowledge that they need help, but don't run over there. And maybe that's part of the key too, to acknowledge and say, I know that you need me to come over. You try for a little bit and then we'll see what happens because I have to do this. And maybe that's not such a bad thing.
And I'm interested to hear what your take is on this. I have a boy in my class who I did that, where I was like, nah, keep trying. Cause you know, you got 15 kids in class and they're all at the lunchroom. And he figured out different ways to open up things at lunch. Okay. So like, it was not the typical way. It wasn't the peeling off of the yogurt, you know, he like would just somehow, and I don't know, take a spoon and poke a hole in it, and it worked. Okay. And he got into his yogurt. And to me, I praised it. I was like, that's a very like creative way that you solve this problem, right? It might not have been the way I would have done it or anybody else would have done it, but he was eating yogurt before I got over there, but because he poked holes in it. And then I was like, okay, but next time, so you know, there is this and you can try to peel it.
Right.
But this went on for like a while. He was like, it's just easier to poke a hole in it. And just today, I saw him, he figured out how to peel it, you know, off. And I like cheered so loud in that lunchroom. People were like, what is happening? I'm like, he did it. After all, so even though he was still like, he must have been like, he would try to peel it, couldn't get it. It was like, forget it. I'm just going to poke it. I need to eat. Okay. I got a half hour. That's it. I got to eat. But he was still trying every day. And then when he couldn't get it, he would just poke the hole in it. And one day it just worked. Okay. I
admire it. You want my take? I admire it. Okay. And it reminds me of a medication I take that has, you know, when it has like the seal at the top of the pill thing, foil. Right?
Yeah.
The foil kind of, and I always have trouble peeling that back, and I do poke a hole in it. I do. I stick my thumb right through it. I stick. So I feel like that child is not alone because I also poke holes in things to get to it.
I also feel like there's more than one way to do things, and neither one of those is wrong, right? So like you could peel it off, you could peel the applesauce container off and boom, you got it, or you could poke a hole in it and you're still eating applesauce. The end goal is to eat, right? So like it might have been a little messier this way. To me, it was like, okay, you solved the problem in your own way. It was like creative thinking a little bit. It was like, okay, I can't get it open this way. How can I get this open? You know, and nobody else was really thinking that way. He was just like, I'm just going to poke it, you know? And like, so I liked his thinking of like, I don't have to do it her way. I'm going to do it my way because I need to eat, you know, like.
At what point though, at what point do you step into something like dramatic play that's less tangible? At what point do you go over to the children who are in the library area who are fighting over where they're going to sit? At what point do I go over and end that conversation and just say, here's what's going to happen. You're going to sit here. You're going to sit here. You're going to sit here. How far do we let that go?
I know. I see. Usually when they're fighting over somewhere to sit, because, you know, that happens a lot when they're 3, 4,
happens
5,
a lot.
I will sit near them and be like, let's see if we can figure this out on our own. Like, what are ways that maybe this could be solved? And then maybe if they can't come up with a solution, then I suggest a solution, but then I don't know if that's the right thing either. But certainly arguing during the entire meeting time over where we sit is also not.
It's counterproductive.
Yeah. You know, so it's hard to know because you have to have your meeting time and you got 14 other kids waiting, you know, so at what point do you? I have like kind of like an assigned seat kind of thing in a way, but it switches all the time, but like kind of takes that all away from it. But not ever, it's going to happen during, you know, if everybody wants Play-Doh and there's only 4 seats at Play-Doh, what do you do? You know, like, it's hard. It's hard to know when do you step in because you don't want them upset, but then you also are like, it could be hard. It's hard to know. And I think it also depends on the kid too.
I think it depends. I think it depends on their age. Their age. developmental level, age.
Yeah, it depends on their personality, I think, a little bit.
Within one class, you can have students who, you know, really struggle a lot with socialization. and expressing themselves, right? Communication. And those children may need you to step in sooner, where another child who communicates a little better and is better able to regulate her own emotions, I might not have to step in with that child as quickly. I'm gonna say that this whole knowing when to jump in is very individualized, just like all teaching is. But with everybody, I would encourage you all, with almost everybody, unless a child is really struggling and very aggressive, and either that child or someone else is going to get hurt, then you have to jump right in. If
safety,
if that's not the case, right? If safety is not the issue, then I want to encourage all the adults to take a beat. And I also think it's unfair of us to talk about this only in regard to teachers. We have to talk about it in regard to families too. You know, families need to know that that helicopter parenting thing is limiting their children's skill development. And then you're going to have to keep helicoptering even closer because the children are getting older and don't have those skills. Folks, this begins in early childhood, being able to, even though it may be hard as a parent, to take a step back and sometimes let natural consequences take place that aren't going to harm anybody, to take a step back and just say to the children, well, you have to decide, you need to know what to do. There are times when it's age and developmentally appropriate for us not to helicopter. Helicopter parenting limits skill building. As a parent, I know how hard it is sometimes when you just want to help. I get it. When your child is struggling, I understand.
You don't want to see them struggle. I get that.
Yeah, but you have to think about, if I make all the decisions, how do they learn decision making? If I regulate the situation, right? If I solve all the problems, then how do they ever learn problem solving? They don't. I end up with like college students' parents calling me because their paper is going to be late. Right? It's not okay, folks.
That's not appropriate.
The end goal of raising a child is that they should be independent and be able to lead their own lives, especially for a time when you're not there. I think we do human beings a major disservice when we don't plan and intend our parenting or raising children around the notion that I'm not going to be here forever.
Correct. Yeah.
You have to keep in mind, you're not going to be here forever. So the children need to be able to do some things on their own, and it is never too late to say to your children, okay, no, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
You need to do it because someday I'm not going to be here to do it for you.
Right.
You know, it's just a real disservice to them, because then what you end up with is a bunch of adults without their safety net someday, not knowing how to do anything.
Yeah. And
there are times when you have to defend your children, right? There are times when you have to advocate for your children. And then there are times when you have to teach them to do it for themselves.
Right.
And that's my speech on helicopter parenting. That's my TED Talk about helicopter parenting.
Yeah.
Welcome to my TED Talk.
Welcome.
I've seen some things. I have grown children. I've seen some things among their grown friends where I'm like, oh no, what happened?
Oh no.
Oh no. All right, folks. So now, in addition to thinking about when do I get out of play, we are challenging you to think about, when do I even jump in? When is it appropriate to jump in, and when should I let them be? Go ponder that, and we will catch you next time on the podcast.
Bye, peeps.